Hour. An hour.
Okay.
Let me do this way. Let me step past you, please. I'm trying to step in It's kind of cutting off my head. Peace, brothers and sisters. We're about to start Soul Liberation Station. And just getting it all set. I think everything is good. We're on Facebook Live. We're on Zoom. And we're on YouTube Live. So if you'd like to join us on any of those other venues, you can certainly click onto the links that are in the Facebook page. Um, Starting off with a little music. There's no love than here. I like that, brother. So again, I want to thank you for joining us on Soul Liberation Radio, Soul Liberation Station. Of course, 6 years it was Soul Liberation Radio. So Soul Liberation Station is where we are. And this is going into our 7th year of presenting this show, but now in a new form. We're no longer on the radio. And that was by design because we're in the process of moving to Zimbabwe, and we're going to keep this show live. And usually we're on Monday, but yesterday I was just a little bit tired from the weekend's activities, so I decided to do the show today. Not to mention the fact that our guest is here today, and I wanted to make sure that was a reality. There's a lot going on in the world. I want to encourage you to be engaged and involved. For those of you who are in locations where voting is taking place, I want you to be sure to vote, especially those of you who are in Illinois. You're voting and electing state legislators. That's a very important matter. I want to encourage you to vote. And other people in the South and out West, you're voting for various persons too. I want to encourage you to do that. And I'm trying to give a few more seconds for people to join us. Again, you can join us on YouTube Live if you'd like to. You can join us uh, on Zoom. And I really want to hear from you today. The phone number is 317-798-4085. We want you to call in 317-798-4085 so that you can participate in this conversation. And your participation will be extremely important. And I think you'll figure out why I said that in just a moment as we get into this conversation. So today we have with us this great author, this sister who is lifting up others in many forms, and and uh, I was glad that she was available. You're available to be with us on Soul Liberation Station, and so Sister Sandra Anderson is with us, and some of you may know her here in the Indianapolis area. Maybe some of you know her in the Atlanta area, and maybe other parts of the country too. But we want to talk about school days. School days, school days. And the reason why I chose that topic is because I read Sister Sandra's book. And in that book, a big part of it shows how she was shaped in her college years. And I know that that was true for me. And also, I want to say this for those of you who are with us, if you can, just send me a little message. Let me know you can hear us clearly. That's important. I think I got everything set up so that we can be heard. But just in case, I don't want nobody to come back later on and say we couldn't hear nothing, and you didn't even say anything. So if you can hear us clearly, if you can see us good, we encourage you to let us know. And so, same for myself. My college years were very formative for me. A lot of the foundation for who I am and a lot of what I do was set when I was in college at Western Illinois University in Macomb, Illinois. And you attended Spelman? All right, right on. And I also attended a school, a part of the Atlanta University Center. I was a student at the Interdenominational Theological Center, ITC, Gammon Theological Seminary there. And so we had that HBC experience from having been there. So if I didn't say something in introducing you, share something. What else would you want to make sure folk know about you as we begin this conversation?
Sure. So, like you said, I'm from Indianapolis. Went to school in Atlanta. I am a servant leader, a community advocate, or activist per se. I'm a life coach and an author.
Okay.
And I just love people, and I want to see people thriving, and I want to see people um, enjoying this thing called life.
Right. I can dig it. I'm the same in a lot of ways. And I'm turning on my Facebook on this phone so that I can make sure I don't miss any comments from anybody. If you have comments, we encourage you to type them in. We'll honor those comments, share those with the community. And again, if you want to call in, the phone number is 317-798-4085. The name of your book, what is it about?
It's called Rising from the Ashes: A
Okay.
Journey from Trauma to Healing.
Okay. And talk louder, so I want to make sure.
Okay.
I want to make sure everybody can hear you.
Okay.
That,
So,
that will be okay.
this one right here. Yeah. I do have one with me.
Okay. It's all right.
So you can see what the image looks like. But yes, it's called Rising from the Ashes: A Journey from Trauma to Healing. And the book is about really just my story of sharing how I have overcome various forms of trauma and started that journey to healing.
Okay. And as I said in introducing you, I saw that the college years played a very important role. How was that? Describe for us what that was like for you.
Sure. So, as you mentioned, or as I mentioned as well, I attended Spelman. And so, for those that don't know, Spelman is a historically Black college for women.
Mm-hmm.
And so much of who I am when it comes to just my boldness, my mentality of I'm a world changer,
Mm-hmm.
all of that was shaped and formed at Spelman.
Okay.
I really, initially before I went to Spelman, my relationship with women were not the best. And I related more to men than I did. I had an easier time forming friendships with men than I did with women. And so going to Spelman really kind of cemented the importance of sisterhood and really being my sister's keeper.
Right.
To be surrounded by so many different various backgrounds of other Black women, young Black women who were on that journey of discovering who they were and what their purpose was, and how to make an impact in this world was phenomenal.
Okay. Also, and you also developed your not just your social life, your social personality, but your professional life was based there, and what you did there in Atlanta after. Say something about that.
So after I graduated from Spelman, I initially wanted to go to law school, but it didn't work out that way. So I took a year off and actually worked at a law firm and started back to going. I went to graduate school, and so I eventually ended up graduating from Georgia State University.
Okay.
But while I was there, I discovered that I really had a passion of helping people from a professional standpoint. So, yeah, and I came back here after I graduated from Georgia State. So I've been back in Indianapolis since 2002.
All right. And I chose the term school days, and I intentionally put DAZE, like Spike Lee did with this movie. Um, and this is another important reason why I really want to hear from those of you who attended college, whether it was an HBCU or another university, a predominantly white institution. I want to hear from you because I want to know what your college experiences were. I really would love to hear from those who either are in college now or recently in college, or even if you weren't. I want to know what your school days were like. School days. Spike Lee gave great effort to show the colorism that exists among Black folk on the campus, the light skin, dark skin, balance. And then there was the balance between those who lived in the town and those who were students on the campus. And the questions of who's blackness, who's black, be black, all those kinds of things. What were your experiences as it relates to culture, as it relates to race, as it relates to just anything?
So I didn't really experience any of the colorism, or I didn't see it. If it was, I'm sure it existed.
Right.
But for me, I was surrounded by friends who were loving and supportive. I had friends who were light skinned. I had friends who were, darker than me. I consider myself kind of like in the middle when it comes to the complexion range.
Okay.
So I had some friends that were darker than me, and the culture was just one. It's I came back to Indianapolis, I struggled.
Mm-hmm.
From the perspective of, I think Spelman and Atlanta in general
Mm-hmm.
kind of like spoiled me because it was like a black oasis.
Right.
And everybody was very supportive of one another. Everybody was very encouraging of one another and uplifting of one another. So to come back to Indianapolis and experience what I've experienced, I'm like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
it's been, a huge adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
But the culture was one of that was loving and supportive. Um,
Is that just students, or was that administration and faculty also?
no, it was administration and faculty as well, and that's one reason why I went to an HBCU is because I wanted to have that one-on-one relationship with my professors. I didn't want to just be another number in the classroom.
Right.
And so Spelman provided that because our class numbers were small.
Mm-hmm.
So in my department, I majored in political science, but I knew all of my instructors. For a long time, I was still after I graduated, still very connected to my instructors in terms of communicating with them. But they knew who we were.
Right.
If we weren't in class, it wasn't just that you weren't in class. They were sending you a call or calling you or emailing you like, why are you not in class today?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? Are you okay?
Right.
So it was very much a family supportive environment.
Right. And I say the same for myself. For the undergraduate school I attended, Western Illinois University in Macomb, Illinois, even though this was a predominantly white campus, I want to say at the time that I went there in the early 80s, there were close to, if not more than 20,000 whites and just a little bit less than 1,000 blacks. And we developed our own sense of community as black students. We sat in our own sections of the cafeterias, and we had our own parties and social life and all those kinds of things. And the professors, the black professors and administrators, were very supportive of us. There was a special commitment that they, I believe, seemed to extend to us as black students. So in that sense, we had that black experience, but it's nothing like being at HBCU. When I went to Gammon, it was a whole nother vibe. It kicked what I talked about at Western up to a whole nother level in terms of the care, in terms of the connections, in terms of familiarity with the people, the food. I mean, just everything.
Black excellence.
Yes, black excellence. I like that. And the professors, oh my God, some of the most impressive people that I've ever known in my life. Some of the professors I had at Gammon Theological Seminary at the Interdenominational Theological Center in Atlanta. So I'm glad. Thank you for those of you who affirm the fact that you can hear us. That's real important. We did do a show one time where I didn't know until later on that on one of the means that we use, and I'm using these different means because, as I said earlier, we're no longer on radio, and so the audience is smaller now. I understand that, but and also with the time shifting, we were on at 9 p.m. for so long on Sunday evening, and now shifted to Mondays at noon. And the reason why we did that is because in Zimbabwe, noon for us in the Eastern time zone is 6 p.m. for them. And so when I get to Zimbabwe, I'm moving there in August. I'm going to still do the show, but then it'll be 6 p.m. their time and noon our time here on the Eastern time zone. And so we need to build up this local audience, but we need to build up this international audience too. So I'm hoping that folk in this area and in the Eastern time zone will take a little time during their lunch break, even if they just sit and listen while they eat, to hear and participate in Soul Liberation Station. Um, but your participation is helpful. I need you to uh, become a member. I don't think that's the proper term of my YouTube page. What's the term? Subscriber. Thank you. I need you to be a subscriber on the YouTube page, and I need you to like and love what you see here on Facebook. And for those of you who are on with us on Zoom, if you are able, I really want to make this Zoom piece an important part of what we're doing with Soul Liberation Station. And so if you can, if you got, even if it's just a little time, join us on Zoom. The link is right there on the Facebook page. Then we want to also hear from you about this important topic, school days. And now I just had children. I had two daughters who attended HBCUs. One went to Alabama State University. She graduated, I want to say 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And one who graduated from Tuskegee 2 years ago. And so it was interesting listening to their stories, who and they're being in those institutions in a more recent time frame than me. and some of the same experiences, but also some challenges. They had some challenges with the facilities at the school. Some things were not up to par as they would have liked them to be. And they did experience some classism, you know, on the campus. Those who felt that they were better than others, and so those kinds of things, and even some classes, some different challenges, feeling as if maybe they didn't get a fair shake or whatever. So I mean, all those experiences are
Yeah,
different.
those I definitely had some of those experiences. I
Okay.
mean, in terms of like the facilities, of course, what we do know is that HBCUs don't get the funding that PWIs do, and
Right.
so they may not have the latest technology that they should or
Hmm.
enough technology. My freshman year, I stayed in a dorm that didn't have air conditioning,
Wow.
and so you can imagine
Hmm.
how hot that was in hot Atlanta.
Hmm. Right. Right.
It was smoking hot. So
Hmm.
our little fans that we had were only blowing out hot air.
Right.
But and even like you said, in terms of what your daughter's experience with the classism, there were some, spelling sisters on campus who others would say were bougie or, thought
Right.
that they were better than other people. But
Mhm.
for me, I never tried to get caught up in that. I was there for a purpose.
Right.
And the friends that I had weren't like that. So
Mhm.
I surrounded myself with people who were like minded like myself.
Right, right. And a lot of times, I know for me, it was the case that I had my own little circle. You talked about that in your book, how you had your circle of people you hung with, and I think that that's true in life. If you go to a particular church, most likely you're gonna find just a set number of folk who you feel that much more comfortable with. Let me raise this question because you talked about the spiritual life, especially the choir on the campus. Um, what do you think about spirituality on campus now, as opposed to then?
I think now it's probably a lot more accepting and understanding. I think back then, it was we were very kind of close minded,
Okay.
and wasn't as accepting of different religions and belief systems.
Right.
But I think now, you go on campuses, it's a lot more open and understanding, so people are comfortable to practice whatever it is that they believe.
Mm-hmm. And now I can imagine it's easy to find a religious setting that fits who you are in Atlanta, without question. But for myself, when I went to Western in Macomb, Illinois, not many options. There was a Pentecostal church, a holiness church, that was on the east side of town that many of us went to because that was the only black church in the whole town. And so eventually, my two other students and myself started a Christian ministry on campus. And to my amazement, that Christian ministry is still there 30 something years later, Christian faith ministry, ministering to the students there at Western Illinois University. And it was just something we started for us. We didn't know it was going to last that long or whatever. But we needed something that fit. We needed music that fit who we were, right?
Yeah,
And
we were in the land of mega churches.
right.
So, you had Creflo Dollar, World Changers, you had New Birth, which I was a member of both of those at
Hmm.
some point.
Right.
So there was a plethora of black churches to choose from.
Right. Right. My daughter, the one who went to Tuskegee, didn't have as many options as she would have liked because Tuskegee, of course, is a small town. Um, and my other daughter, she didn't go to church, and my son didn't go to church either when he was an undergrad. And he went to a Payne College in Augusta, Georgia, for a little bit. He also went to Georgia Southern, but um, I don't know if, and I do know that when I was an undergrad, a lot of my classmates did go to church, and they were excited when we started the other church, and they came to it in Grove, so that showed there was an interest for it. But a lot didn't go, and I'm specifically concerned about the ones who did go, but then once they got there, they stopped going. Right now, you tell me if this was your experience coming out of Chicago, coming out of my church community, coming out of my mom and daddy's house, going somewhere where I had absolute freedom, stay up as long as I want to, roam the streets, hang with who I want to, have company in my dorm room. That was a level of freedom that I had not known up until that time. Was that the same experience for you?
Oh, absolutely. Like you said, being able to come and go
Mm-hmm.
without having to ask somebody, can you leave and go somewhere?
Right.
So it's definitely that freedom component. And I would say, I really, I don't know, probably if I think back to everybody that lived on my hall,
Mm-hmm.
I would probably say it was a 60-40 that went to church. I mean, when I was in college, there was a lot of students that didn't go to church either.
Okay.
So, yeah, but I was one of the ones that did back then.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I hear more young people say now than when I was in school, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. Would you agree that's a growing theme among
Yeah,
some of our
I
younger
think
brothers?
because religion is, they say religion is man made. It's like, a lot of rules and constraints. And so I hear that even amongst adults now. You have a lot of adults who were raised in church and raised under a certain religion who
Right.
are now more spiritual than they are
Mm-hmm.
religious.
Right.
Absolutely.
All right. It is 31 minutes after the hour. I want to hear from you. The phone number is 317-798-4085. 317-798-4085. I really want you to call in. Unfortunately, we only got one phone line. So get on in and we want to hear from you. You can also join us on Zoom. The Zoom link is on my Facebook page. You can text in your message on Facebook, and we'll be able to get you there. And if you join us on YouTube, I'm trying to keep an eye on all of this. If you join us on YouTube, you can also with us. You can chat with us on on our YouTube page, and I'll try to keep my eye on all of this. And I do have one comment from one of our listeners on Facebook Live who says that she would like you to talk loud.
Okay.
So, amen. Um, and so here we are now in 20. This mic is actually connected to YouTube.
Okay.
So that's what that's, and I wanted YouTube to have a nice sound to it so that, because this one is the one that people will probably go back to if they, um, what do you call that, Google. This is what will probably
I'll
most
just
likely come
check
up.
this way because this is
Yeah,
the one that's
yeah.
Facebook. Okay.
That's Facebook up there, Zoom down there.
Okay. I'll just
Yeah.
make sure I project that way.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And so here we are in 2022, and uh, many of our institutions are doing okay, but some are struggling, right? Um, what should we be doing as alumni of these institutions to support them?
Scott is really, really, really good about engaging their alumni. And I think it starts with just being able to give back financially to support, even if you pledge $5 a month,
Mm-hmm.
Something financially to give back to the institution that shaped who you are. But I also understand why that may not be feasible
Mm-hmm.
for for some to do that. But definitely, in some way, shape, form, or fashion, be able to financially give back to your institution if you're still in the area.
Right.
Be able to volunteer some time to do any outreach activities that they have. And then if you're not in the area, just every opportunity that you get to elevate the school that you attended,
Right.
do that for your personal network.
I agree with that. And at ITC, I ultimately became the national alumni president for Gammon Theological Seminary, and we were able to do a good deal to strengthen the database of students where they were and encourage them to give and become active in the alumni association. So glad to be have having had the privilege to do that work and hold that position. And so somebody is about to go to college. What's your advice for them? They are graduating from high school, or maybe they are already graduated this past spring, but next month they're going to college. What's your advice?
Oh, wow. So actually, I think I have some notes on my phone because my one of my mentees graduated from high school last year, and she went off to Spelman.
Okay.
Let me see if I still have that note in my phone. I did. I do. So, a couple of things I would say to that student who's getting ready to go off to college: stay focused.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to get distracted
Right.
when party scheme
Right.
and lose who you are, and,
Mhm.
but no, you're there for a goal. So
Right.
stay focused and don't get distracted.
Mhm.
For her, my advice to her was to embrace sisterhood, but whatever school you go to, embrace the idea of making new relationships or forming new relationships,
Mhm.
because those relationships can turn into lifelong relationships,
Right.
and support systems.
Mhm.
And then don't compare yourself to others.
Mhm.
Your journey isn't their journey.
Right.
And so as you see other students on campus doing their thing, or excelling in different areas or getting involved, and you may feel like you're not actually on that same track, don't compare yourself to them. Your journey is your journey
Right.
alone. Have fun.
Mhm.
Even though I stay focused,
Mhm.
but there is that moment where you need to have fun and just enjoy being a college student.
Right.
Because for me, like, I was so focused on graduating that I missed some of the simple joys of being a college student. So don't be so quick to want to grow up and be an adult, because adulting is not all it's cracked up to be. Trust yourself.
Mhm.
Your parents or whoever your support system, they've done a good job up until that point of depositing the nuggets that you're going to need to be on your own. So trust that you're going to make good decisions in the absence of those who have been your support system.
Absolutely.
And then you don't have to have your whole life figured out.
Mhm.
Be present and stay in the moment. So that one is huge. We think that we have to go to college and have it all figured out of what we want to do once we get out. But no,
Mhm.
if you're there to figure it out,
Right.
figure out what you want to do.
Absolutely. Good advice. Good advice. Thank you. I was thinking about how when I was in school, there was one moment when this was right before fall semester was about to start again, and I had an apartment. Not an apartment. I'm sorry. I had a house that I was renting there in Macomb, Illinois. And at this point, I was 3 months behind on my rent, and my utility bills were back. I didn't have money to get back in school. I knew I didn't have money to buy books, and yeah, I was eating tuna, everything. So I had to have simple meals, and so this particular day, I was just really down about it, and took a little walk throughout the town. It was a little dreary day. It was warm. It was probably about 67 degrees, but it was kind of a dreary, um, light rain coming down, and I didn't mind that. And so I was fussing at God, why you got me down here and ain't provided. And so God began to deal with me and said, wait a minute, you in your third year. You made it thus far. You know what I'm saying? Haven't I provided thus far? And and so God challenged me to do what I can do. And after that, just leave it to God. And so that's what I did. I kind of pulled myself together for the books that I didn't have money to get. I would, depend on classmates who had the book and copy chapters. I know I shouldn't say that as an author and a publisher, right?
I think we all did
Did that. And sometimes I can find the book in the library or one close to it, maybe by the same author. Um, I had to move out of the house. I had to get a house up. I love my independence, but I had to move into the dorm. And fortunately, at Western, there was uh, the like the senior dorm, the upper class dorm, and that was a good place to live. I enjoyed being in. It was called Higgins Hall, and I enjoyed being in Higgins. And everything else, I just did what I can do. The church that I attended gave some support. Um, the school gave me some more support. I was able to get a couple of different grants, and several things happened, and it all came together, and it worked out. But I think about other students who didn't find a way out, who kind of gave up. So for the student who's at the moment when they're finna give up, what's your advice?
I know it sounds cliche, but don't give up. Make sure that you exhaust every avenue possible
Mhm.
before you walk away.
Right.
Because, like you said, you were in your junior year, so it's a reminder that you've been provided for it that long. So and then reach out for help. A lot of times, closed mouth don't get fed. A lot of times, people don't know that you're struggling as a college student. So don't be afraid to reach out and ask somebody, hey, can you help me? Can you buy me some groceries?
Right.
Definitely put your pride and ego to the side and reach out for some help.
Absolutely. It is about I should have put the clock in front of me. 40 minutes after the hour, 40 minutes after the hour, we got about 20 minutes left. And what I do really want to hear from you, so I want to encourage you to call in. We got one lonely phone line that has not rung since we started. We want to know your college days experiences. And if you have some advice you want to share, we want to encourage you to call in and share it. 317 798 4085. 317 798 4085. We're live on Facebook. You can type in a comment. We're live on Zoom. Um, and you can join in with us on Zoom and share your comment personally. And we're live on YouTube. And so if you want to chat with us, you can chat with us on YouTube. How about this aspect of the social life? You talked about the parties, and we did party at Western. What about the fraternity and sorority life? How did you feel about that?
Oh, I loved it. I think that's what makes the HBCU experience an experience like no other. I didn't get the opportunity to actually pledge, but we had those step shows on campus
Right.
and probate shows and all of
Hmm.
that, and so it just brought a whole other element to a culture and experience,
Yeah.
or to the culture.
Hmm.
And I think if you go to a PWI, even though they have sororities and fraternities, I still think that it's different.
Hmm.
It's a different type of energy on an HBCU campus.
Yeah. And I didn't join when I was an undergrad either, so I can certainly appreciate what you're saying. Just from observation, I can see that there is a distinct difference in terms of how they move on the campus and the presence that they have on a lot of the campuses. They have their own shrines, if you will, the monuments that are right there on the campus yard, and there's a lot of pride in their organization. So I just joined Omega Psi Phi last year in
Congratulations.
2021 in spring, and it was one of the best things I've ever done, and is one of the best things. I am so loving what I'm experiencing, through the organization. And as I think back, when I was an undergrad, I was very active in student leadership. So I was a student senator. I was, high up in the Black Student Association, and had two radio programs that I was doing, and I was the editor for the Black Campus newspaper, and a writer for the campus newspaper. So I had a lot of presence, and so I felt I was in a good position just to network with all of them, and I did. And then I felt I was from Chicago, from the South Side and the North Side, and in my state of mind, in my Holy Ghost Christian state of mind at that time, I was convinced that if anybody laid hands on me, I'm laying hands back. It wasn't gonna be, what I'm saying. So there was that element of it. There was some. I think back on some of the brothers and sisters in fraternities and sororities who were very positive forces on the campus. But then there was those other ones who were not as positive, and so you see the whole organization based on all of the members. And when you look at classmates and friends who went through the pledging process, and it was just I just didn't see it. I didn't have that vision. And of course, uh, all of the fraternities and sororities now have anti-hazing policies that they're very serious about. And so uh, things are probably different. Not probably, I know they are different. But back then they weren't as different, and that was for me that was a barrier to the ideal of joining an organization. I was a part of an organization called Dukes and Duchesses, which was both men and women, and it was a sort of fraternity sorority kind of setting, and we were just a blessing to one another. We're still connected as members of Dukes and Duchesses. The organization doesn't exist anymore on campus, but we still have those same, connections as brothers and sisters. But I said all that to say about today's college campus, I would strongly encourage anybody to really explore your fraternities and sororities on the campuses, whether you're at a predominantly white institution or an HBCU. I believe these organizations really have powerful things, wonderful things to offer. And so, even though I didn't do it at that time, part of me probably would have benefited in a lot of
Absolutely.
ways if I
Yeah.
would have done it then. But, but and I think that some aspects of my journey in social activism, in politics, in business, as an author, traveling around the country, it would have been wonderful to have those kinds of connections at that time. And so I'm experiencing it now, and I see the beauty and the power of it. Um, and so I said enough about that. Did you want to say anything else about fraternity sorority?
No, like you said, I think they provide a different experience that will help you grow if you have the opportunity to be a part of one.
Okay. And I'm looking at a lot of wonderful comments, encouraging comments on Facebook Live. I thank you for your comments. Not seeing any questions though, or just comments. Real quick, we got 15 minutes left. If you have any questions or comments, especially on Facebook Live, I'm going to ask you to share those because I know many of you have had college experiences, and maybe some of you didn't go to college, but your children did, or you have relatives that did, and you want to share your insight from your vantage point, what you saw, in those settings, or what you experienced as a parent of a student who's in an undergraduate or has been in an undergraduate setting. Again, the phone number here, 317-798-4085. I would love to get at least one call before we wrap up. 317-798-4085. If you want to just call in and make a comment, uh, and so that we can hear your voice. Again, we're also on Zoom, and we would love to hear you there. We'd love for you to join us on Zoom. The link is on my page, and we're on YouTube. So if you have a comment and you want to chat, you can join us on YouTube. I'm here. Our guest liberator is Sister Cassandra Anderson. She is an author, and with what you have written in this book, who is your audience? Who are you trying to reach most, do you think, with your book? And you can say more about your book, just for the sake of those who may not have been with us earlier.
Sure. So again, it's called Rising from the Ashes: A Journey from Trauma to Healing, and it really is just me telling my story of how I took those setbacks and used them as comebacks,
Right.
and walked through overcoming the trauma that I faced, whether it was workplace trauma, um, domestic violence, sexual abuse. All those are part of my story, and I talk about um, what I did to overcome that.
Right.
And in terms of the audience, it really is men can learn from this book as well.
Mm-hmm.
They can learn how the things that they say, they do impact the women in their lives, because a lot of times I don't think they're fully aware of the words and their actions, how impactful they are
Right.
on our lives as women, the women that they deal with on a day-to-day basis. And then women, of course, definitely would read the book and be able to identify themselves in some capacity,
Right.
and gain some strength to overcome a challenge that they may face.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And let me ask this question. Uh, for many of us, again, when we go to college, a lot of times it's far away from home, and we begin to engage in dating relationships, and then we have serious relationships. What are your words of wisdom for someone who is getting involved in a serious relationship on the college campus, whether it be issues of how they should conduct themselves personally, how they should conduct themselves as it relates to intimacy, how and what role should spirituality play in their relationship? What are your thoughts?
I think it's individually, every couple has to decide for themselves how the relationship is going to go. But I would just say to that young woman who may be in college and in that a serious relationship, to not lose herself in the middle of all of that. Still remember who you are and what your goals and your dreams are. There's nothing wrong with finding someone in college that you connect with.
Right.
I know a lot of college sweethearts who met in college and they're still married today. And I know a lot of couples who met in college and they're divorced today.
Right.
So it really does boil down to finding someone you're on the same page with in terms of what your goals are, what your life vision is for yourself, and what his life vision is in terms of spirituality. definitely finding someone who can speak to who you are from a spiritual standpoint, whatever your belief is. There's that debate of, am I Christian? Do I date somebody who's not? Or, I just say finding someone who can respect what you believe,
right,
and encourage you to maintain what it is that you believe.
absolutely.
From an intimacy standpoint, I definitely don't like to give advice on that because I don't know where people stand. So I just say that's a conversation that you have to, or decision that you have to make for yourself, and if you're comfortable going that direction or
Right.
not. I shy away from it.
Okay.
Because I don't shy away, but I do in certain settings. So, but
right.
Because everybody believes differently. Some people believe, oh, you should wait till you get married. But I just say whatever choice or decision that you make sure that it's your decision,
right,
and your choice, and you're not pressured into making that decision.
yes,
and make sure if it's someone that you continue, that you genuinely love, and they genuinely love you, whatever
absolutely.
choice you make when it comes to being intimate when you're in
Right, right. And I like the answer that you gave. I think that a lot of things that we do, especially brothers, I can speak, for sisters, but for brothers, a lot of times we're just guided. We're just guided by our sexual, interests. We're guided by our lust, if you will, and that motivates a lot of what we do when we're, in college. Now, I did write a book called "You're Going to Be a Preacher," and in that book, it's to a good degree autobiographical, and so I do share a lot of my sexual, experiences as an undergrad and after, and yeah, I had to confess some stuff. I had to be transparent about some things, and I've learned better to understand who I am, and certainly look even at my past and see why I did some of the things that I did. And then had to come back later on and make some serious confessions and ask them for some forgivenesses, and because I just wasn't thinking, and I wasn't mature.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. It really boils down to your maturity level when it comes to that. Because even as adult women, sometimes we still make the wrong decisions.
Right.
So I would say, really take the time to get to know this person that you're entertaining, this young person that you're entertaining, to see who they are.
Right.
Because everybody doesn't deserve to have a piece of you, whatever choice that you make, and
Absolutely.
understanding that you're valuable, and it's a prize and a privilege to share that with somebody. So definitely take that time to get to know the young man or young woman that you're dating before you rush into that decision.
Right. And let me ask this last question. I think we're close to our conclusion time. This is June. June is, and I don't know all the letters. So LGBTQ, and there's some other letters that I don't know all of them. One of the things I appreciated about college, and really appreciate about the home that I came from, and to a degree the church that I came from, was very open, not very judgmental, criticizing somebody for their sexual preference or interest or things that they did, but just being accepting. But for me, as an undergrad, that was where I personally had to say, okay, this is the world that's around me, right? Because LGBTQ is not my setting. It's not, my social setting. But we live in the world with all kinds of people. And so I had good friends, who were, involved in same-sex relationships, and 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 so I was able to support them in a sense. Uh, I didn't tell nobody secrets because a couple of them was, what do you call it, on the down low, and you see things and you hear things, and you're like, well, but I didn't tell nobody secrets. But the point I'm trying to make is that this is the world we live in. And I think college provides the first best place, at least this was true for me, the first best place to find out how you're going to move in the world, who you are, what kind of, relationships are you going to engage in. You're going to establish some friendships on the college campus that will be lifelong friendships, right? And just so many other things. The foundation of one's life is set there. You want to say anything about anything I've said?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. I think a lot of times I grew up in a very strict Christian home. And so, when I got to college, I was still in that mindset.
Right.
And so I wasn't back then I wasn't as open to having those friendships with people who had, a different lifestyle. But I've learned over the years that it's really not my place.
Right.
What you do is your choice and your business and your decision. I'm there to love you and support you through it all. So it doesn't matter to me at the end of the day. But I say that to say, go to college with that open mind of just being open to people, and learning, because you'll close yourself off if you have this mindset of, oh, I'm not going to interact with somebody who's this or that. Then you're going to miss out on so much that you probably need, just knowledge and wisdom that you can learn from this other person.
Absolutely.
Whatever their beliefs, even when it comes to religion, that's very strong in our community, the Black community. And so, you go on campus and you encounter somebody who doesn't believe what you believe spiritually, you look at them as the devil, and that's not the right thing to do. It's like be open to learning and hearing their perspective, because you can learn and grow from hearing that perspective. So that's
All right. This is Soul Liberation Station. My name is James Anike. I'm your host. Our guest liberator today is Sister Cassandra Anderson. She is an author, and you have other things that you do aside from being an author. Tell us about that real quick.
Sure. So I'm an author. I have a podcast called Let's Go There with Cassandra. I am the founder of Crown the Queen's Retreat, which is a retreat that specifically elevates and celebrates women of color. In addition to, I have a business called Empower You, and under that business, I am a motivational speaker. I do leadership development training, and I also do some executive assistant admin stuff as well.
Okay. And if somebody wanted to reach you, what would they need to do?
They can send me an email at canderson@empoweruindy.com, and that's INPOWER,
All right. Again, this is Soul Liberation Station. We're about to wrap up, and still didn't get that phone call. We're going to keep working on that. But if you want to call in real quick, you got to call in the next minute, 317-798-4085. If you want to give us a closing comment. Again, we are live on Facebook, live on Zoom, live on YouTube. And I thank all of you who have tapped in some way in these different mediums. In the next couple of weeks, you're going to be hearing information about what we'll be doing as we celebrate our 7th year of Soul Liberation Station. Used to be Soul Liberation Radio, but now Soul Liberation Station. And I'm going to be having an event, or whether we're going to be hosting an event on July 30th, sort of a farewell event. I'll be leaving Indianapolis August 8th. Thank you. I mean August 7th. August 4th, I'll be leaving Indianapolis. August 8th, I'll be flying out to Zimbabwe. And this, I say 4 years, but I believe it's a permanent move. And I have a whole lot of what I'll be doing. I'm not going to talk about that today. That's a whole nother show and subject. But there are many who have been asking, are we going to have another event? And so that Saturday afternoon, Saturday morning, to be precise, July 30th, that Saturday, 11 a.m., we're going to have a brunch at the Jewel Event Center. It is free, but we need you to RSVP because we want to make sure we are covered. And we do encourage you to come to support, but also bring a contribution. And I'll be saying more about that in the days and weeks and to come, because there's some benchmarks we need to meet financially so that we can do Soul Liberation Station, so that we can make this journey and be able to have all the resources we need when we get to Zimbabwe. I keep saying we, but it's just me. I ain't taking nobody with me. When I get to Zimbabwe, and I'm looking forward to really a really exciting, awesome experience. And I'm thankful that we're going to be able to share this experience together. Sister Sandra, anything else before we wrap up? Okay. Thank you so much for being with us today. Glad to. And brothers and sisters, thanks for being with us. Thanks for being with us on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Zoom. And for those of you on Facebook, I encourage you to like or love and share this post so that other people can get this good information that we've shared. You can always come back and look at it on Facebook Live, on my page, or on YouTube. You can, and I do want to again encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube page, because we need to build up that subscriber base so that we can do bigger things through this particular medium. And with those of you who didn't join us on Zoom, but y'all want to still encourage us to look towards participating in Soul Liberation Station in the weeks to come on Zoom also. I'm still debating as to whether or not I'm going to do the show next uh, Monday. Next Monday is the 4th of July, and I'll actually be out of town. And I can easily do the show out of town, but probably not to this degree because Sister Cassandra could tell you I got a lot of stuff set up just to do it this way. And so I might just wait until either the next day or the following week. And I will be traveling quite a bit this month doing Black Love Sessions. Black Love Sessions. So wherever you are, if you're interested in hosting a Black Love Session or attending a Black Love Session, I'll be preaching this coming Sunday, the second. I'm sorry, the third, in Fort Worth, Texas. If you want information about the church that I'll be at and what we'll be doing that day, surely reach out to me so I can share that information. Again, thanks so much for being with us on Soul Liberation Station, and we will be back next week. Thank you, sister.
Thank you.
All right. Turn all these different devices out.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Oops, what did I just do? This song?